So making yourself comfortable, make sure your back's reasonably straight, feet shoulder width apart. Cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and just connect with your breath. So take a nice deep breath in, through the nose, notice how the stomach rises. Chest rises. Take another sip of air into the head. Pause at the top of the inhale, find some stillness. Just scan your mind and notice any obviously distracting thoughts. Thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future, any negative thoughts, contracted, constricting emotions that go with them. Just doing a little scan, internal scan. And if you notice anything showing up, just become aware of it. Notice how it feels energetically. Notice how it feels in your body. Maybe there's a tightness in your chest or a contraction in your stomach. And then as you exhale, you just let it go. Full deep exhale out your mouth to just release. And the stomach into the spine. A sense of letting go of that thought, that emotion, the energy. Finding some stillness at the bottom of the exhale. And then breathe in again. So nice deep breath in. Always through the nose. Imagine you breathing into the belly button. Filling up the stomach like a balloon. Second phase of the breath is into your heart center. Just feel this lovely life energy rising up from the lower stomach and spine, up the spine into your upper chest, and it's sitting there. It's like the cresting of a wave. Another sip of air into the top. To your head. It's where the wave crests. Freeze frame the wave briefly in your mind. Just tuning into this lovely life essence feeling. It's a life energy in the body. It's the very essence of you, of life itself. So notice that. And notice the stillness, the calmness that arises when you do that. Beautiful, peaceful, calm place. Now again, scan your mind and just notice any negativity that can show up in the form of a minor irritation, anger towards someone, jealousy, fear of the future, worries, anxiety. Scan your mind. Notice how this all feels energetically. And if you're doing a good job, you should feel contraction or constriction in your energy field that might show up as a tightness in your chest or your stomach, maybe a clenching of your jaw. Just notice all these subtle sensations that go with these thoughts and emotions. And when you notice them, you notice that they're not very pleasant. They're not really what you want to hold in your mind and your energy field. So just decide to let them go. So this is very, very simple two-step letting go process. You're just going to let go with your breath. So as you exhale, full deep exhale out your mouth. Releasing, letting go. With the breath, imagine that this dark energy is leaving you. Out of your mouth, this sort of dark grey or black smoke, and Just breathing out of every pore and every cell and every muscle of your body. Just releasing. Find the stillness at the bottom of the exhale. And then breathe in again. Nice deep inhale. Imagine you breathing light in. Breathing this beautiful golden or white light into your stomach. Filling up your lower stomach like a balloon, and then into your chest, your middle chest. Breathing this light into your heart center, and then into your upper chest, into your head. Pause, feel the light in every cell and every muscle of your body, extending out from you, creating a golden or white light aura around you. In the presence of the light, no darkness is possible. Remind yourself, those in the community, that this is a universal idea, so nourish you as well. Remind yourself, I am not a body, I am free. I am still as God or love created me. And then drop your attention into your heart center. Feel the life essence there, this cresting of the wave. Beyond the body. This is way beyond the body. You feel it in the body, but the body is not your ultimate reality. And then as you exhale, imagine the wave of energy subsiding back into the ocean of your breath. Oh, there's John. Hi, John. Just in the middle of a meditation, so join in. So, exhaling out, releasing all that negativity, all that stuck static energy. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Find the stillness again. Light. And take another nice deep breath in. Through the nose, filling up your lower stomach. Imagine the light filling up your stomach, a lovely warm, heavy feeling in your stomach. Then into your middle chest, into your upper chest, into your head. Breathing in this expansive light energy. Imagine it infusing every cell and every muscle of your body, going through every pore of it. Your mind is very clear and light. Into this light, clear space. Just drop today's review idea. Be busy with the art of letting go course club program, which is it can only be myself that I crucify. In other words, I can only attack myself. So now again, tune in to your mind. Notice any thoughts, any emotions that are at all angry. A little bit of irritation, some frustration, maybe it's outright anger or rage. You tune into that. Bring to mind the situation, the person or people involved. Feel it again. Notice how unpleasant it is, the contraction, the constriction. It's only when we become aware of these things, and how really awful they are, that we can choose to let them go. And so now do that with your breath. As you exhale, just releasing all that negativity. Imagine it's like a dark black smoke leaving your mouth, flowing out of your body, just letting it all go. to the nothingness that it really is. And the wave subsides and the ocean is still. Find that calmness in between breaths. It's a little portal to eternity. To connect deeply with that. Remind yourself, I'm not a body, I'm free. I'm still as God or love created me. I only attack myself, I only hurt myself. So to close the meditation, just take a minute to be still, quiet, silent. Just watch your breath. So breathing in through the nose, notice how the stomach and the chest rise. Imagine you breathing this beautiful golden or white light into your stomach, your heart center, to your chest, your head. Find the stillness, emptiness, the openness, the peace that comes with us. When you exhale, make a little sighing sound out your nose. Constrict your throat. It's called the Jai sound in yoga. Just letting it all go. Letting that energy subside back down, like a wave just breaking back into the ocean. And so repeat that. Imagine you breathing in the light, filling your body with the light. Pause, hold the breath briefly, intensify the light, get stronger and brighter with each passing second. And then you exhale, sighing it out. Just releasing. Imagine the light extending outwards. So just do this for a minute. You might get a sense of the light just emerging. There's really no inflow and outflow of light. There's just one light. The light is you. You are the light. There's nothing else. Nothing else to be aware of. So just sink into that light place in your mind. The next minute of silence. There's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. Just breathe in this nice rhythmical pattern. Breathing in and out the light. And surrender. Let go of all thoughts, all emotions. Let it all go into the light. Merge into that light. The light that you truly are. For the next minute of silence. And so just gently bring your awareness back into body through the breath. Same way we entered the meditation, you're going to come out of it. Breathing in, stomach rises, chest rises. Notice the subtle flow of air into your nostrils. And pause. Connect with the stillness and the light. And you exhale, sigh it all out. Make the Ujjayi sound in the back of your throat. Letting it all go. Notice the air flowing out of your nostrils. Chest and stomach sucking back in. Okay, and find the stillness at the bottom of the exhale. And light, which you hopefully connected with very deeply, is still there. So that's one. On the count of three, you're going to open your eyes. So two, just noticing all of your body senses. So breathe in again. And just notice what you're touching and feeling. Notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair. Feet pressing into the ground. Notice any taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. Notice what you're hearing. Tuning into the subtle sounds in your environment. So it could be the whirring of a computer fan, the subtle sound of clock, wind in the background, anything like that. Just notice how peaceful it is when you notice these things like this. They arise and then they subside. So what you're starting to do is train your mind to pay more attention to the background, the awareness that perceives rather than the foreground, sense perceptions themselves. And that is what all true spiritual practice and meditation has to help you to do. So when you start to change your perception fundamentally by doing these meditations. So set that intention just to stay peaceful, calm, and connected to this peace and this light for the rest of the evening. So it is said, so it is done. And on three, opening your eyes, just take 30 seconds to look around. Just anchor yourself back in to this sensory domain, reality. So you're noticing what you touching and feeling and hearing and what you're seeing, which is one of the most dominant senses. But just notice how it's all very peaceful still. The light is still there. You can just let your eyes rest on whatever they happen to rest on, but don't have any mental commentary. Don't judge or label or interpret anything. Just notice how peaceful it is to perceive the world this way. And so you're training your mind to start perceiving this way all the time, in a state of non-judgment, a state of mind being empty. It's called no mind. The mind is still. And problems come in when you start to use the mind to evaluate and interpret and judge your sense perceptions. It creates a lot of suffering. So you're training yourself not to do that. And to stay connected to that for the rest of the evening, just use your breath. And you can use today's idea at the same time. So breath control and mind training go together very nicely. And you just breathe in and say, I'm not a body, I'm free, for I'm still as God will have created me. And you can use the other idea, the core review idea, which is it's only myself that I crucify or attack. And use those ideas just to help you to let go with the breath of anything that's come in to disturb your peace. And that will keep you connected and very peaceful for the rest of the evening. So for those who did the meditation, you're not staying for the masterclass, you're welcome to, but if you need to go, that's all good, no problem. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay and listen. I've changed a few things. If you haven't seen it for a while, I think you'll learn something. For those on WhatsApp, thank you for listening, and wish you a peaceful evening. Namaste. Okay, so we're all still here. As I said, if anyone wants to stay, you're welcome to. If you have to go, that's all fine.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, John. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, Hazel. Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
How you all?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so
Welcome.
I'm just going to try and share my screen because I want to show narration. Anyone else? Is anyone else going to stay for the presentation?
I am.
Carol
We'll
is.
talk about
Okay. Great.
You'll be speaking of meditations, will you, Jono? Or meditation?
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about some research on meditation. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. So
I might wait for that, yeah.
yeah, okay, stay for that. All right, so I'm just hoping if I get bombed out of Zoom, just forgive me because it tends to do this sometimes, but I'll come back in, so stay in because it won't knock you out. I'll come back in a minute or two, and probably the second time it works, but I need to try and share my screen. So let's give it a go. Okay, hopefully it'll work, maybe. Working. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Come on, yeah.
Fantastic.
Run again.
Oh, it seems to struggle a bit with this. Okay, there we go. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It actually worked. All right.
The logo, yeah.
Worked first time this time. The last 2 times I tried this, it's bombed out. Okay, now the PowerPoint's gonna cooperate. Okay, there we go. So you can all see that, the art of letting go, how to let go and find your flow.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. I'm just gonna take that away so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, so the subtitle of this is How to Let Go of Any Fearful Thought or Emotion in Minutes using 7 secret stress-busting immune boosting techniques. So I'll be talking about those. And ride the wild tiger of change. So that's what's happening around the world. Change has certainly happened over the last few months. To find authentic happiness, fulfilling flow, higher purpose, wonderful well-being, and actually thrive in these challenging times without having to spend a fortune on motivational books, workshops, personal coaching, hand sanitizer. Sorry, that's a bit of humor there. Pills or psychotherapy books. So there's a lot of solutions out there, traditional solutions that a lot of people turn to in times like this to help them, and I'm going to show you, I think, a better way, a higher way. So you might have read some of these books. I certainly have read probably hundreds of what would be called motivational books. So I'm not knocking them. I think it's a great place to start. It's about starting to take control of your mind, learning about the power of your thinking. It's all a necessary step. But what I found, and I'll share my own experience, is that they kind of leave you hanging somewhere. So I read many of these books when I was growing up. I started reading these kinds of books when I was 12. And really what they teach you mostly is that your value and your entire life then is based on what you do and what you achieve. Not all of them, but the typical motivational book is all about motivating you to do something. And so it's very much about what you do and not who you really are. It's not about being. And I was a youngster, I got inspired by all of these. It was like I was pretty good at squash. I decided I wanted to become the world champion squash player. I didn't think there was any use in aiming for less than number 1. But what I did was I pinned my whole identity on that goal, on that dream. It's like my life would only be worthwhile if I could be number one in the world, the best squash player in the world. Which in hindsight is a pretty insane thing to do, because you're only setting yourself up for failure. If you're not number one, even if you're number two, well then somehow you're not good enough, and you failed. But I didn't understand all of that at that stage. So it took me down a path of personal growth. I started, I went to university, but afterwards I turned professional. And I really put everything into it. I put my heart and soul. I would visualize, I would train. I went overseas to the UK. I started training with the world's number one player. It all looked quite good. But stuff happens that you can't always control. And I was forced to leave the UK for visa reasons, which put a big spanner in the works. So that was a big letting go opportunity. I then came back to South Africa. I started working with a coach here because I realized that I still had a lot to learn. And in my late 20s, I had to come. I remember losing to this chap who wasn't particularly good. He was a top 20 in South Africa, but I normally beat him in practice. But that day I didn't play particularly well. I lost to him. I remember just sitting by the side of the court and going, "What, you 27 or 28? This isn't going to happen. You're never going to beat a world champ. It's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream. You're too old. If I had 10 years more, possibly, maybe, but it's too old." So that was my first kind of letting go opportunity, really, at a pretty young age, my late 20s, to start to realize that actually maybe there was something more than just achieving some great goal. And it was quite hard because I set myself up for this for pretty much my whole adult life. Since I was about 12, this had been my dream, and I really worked towards it. And what it caused me to do was to question everything. Say, okay, well, are all these books true? What the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. This is Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, which was one of the first of these kinds, and it spawned a whole industry. But is that actually true? And I had to really consider that. And I'd started meditating as well. I'd learned to meditate while I was in England to try and improve my squash. But when you start meditating, it opens up another part of your mind. So I think that was part of my awakening process. And then I started to read different kinds of books. I remember reading The Power of Now soon after it was released in about 2000, 2001. And it was amazing. I was like, wow, this is amazing stuff. I can't believe I've been missing this all my life. Like the now, obviously. It's not obvious because most of the time our minds are so busy thinking about the past or the future. I was very future oriented. We just miss this essential reality that's now. There's only ever now. But what I found, there was a conflict between these philosophies. So the one saying, well, it's very much about your future and what you're going to do in your future and work towards that. And Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now is saying, no, don't visualize the future. Don't set goals. Just be in the now. Let it all go. It's like, well, I can't do both of these. And so slowly, it took me a while, but I did start to let go and say, okay, I'm just really going to focus on being present in the now and doing what feels good in the now. I carried on playing squash because I still enjoyed the game, but I was playing with a different reason now. It wasn't about achievement. It was just about, okay, well, I enjoy the game and I want to just play because I enjoy it. And the result doesn't matter so much. And that's one of the key principles of flow that I'll share tonight, is to be able to let go of the outcome. Outcome orientation puts you out of the now and into the future. And a lot of these books talk about the future. They talk about the outcome and what you're going to achieve and how you can use your mind to achieve stuff. But there's another dimension, a much deeper dimension to us, which is our beingness, beyond what we do, who we are fundamentally. And that's what the spiritual path is really about. So unknowingly, I've gone on a spiritual path. I started reading more and more of these spiritual type of books, Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle's other book, A New Earth, Neil Donald Walsh, the Conversations with God series, Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, the Urantia book, all kinds of books. but still something was missing. It just felt like something wasn't quite. It's like, yeah, they're all pointing to something, but it didn't quite gel for me. It wasn't the complete truth. So I kept seeking. I did a lot of workshops. I did a Tony Robbins workshop, a seminar in London a few years ago. And I didn't really find it there. It was interesting. It was like a rock concert, but I didn't think it was really about self-empowerment. I thought it was more about some kind of hero worship. And then there's there's this is the sort of the worst of the personal growth movement, in my view. And I've got nothing against this chap personally, but be obsessed is certainly not a particularly spiritual message. It's not going to bring you peace of mind or happiness, in my view. There's a whole another way of looking at everything, and that's what I started to find through the spiritual path. It wasn't about being obsessed. It wasn't about desire. The Buddha, in fact, said desire is the source of all suffering. So if you're obsessed, well, what are you going to do? You create suffering for yourself, because at some point your obsession with whatever it is going to turn into suffering, because you'll be disappointed. You're not going to get everything you expect in life. That's just a truism. So decided to turn to this sort of ancient, timeless wisdom rather than the falsity of the personal growth movement. There's drugs we talked about, and not that I've ever believed in those, but popping a pill is not going to help you to find that deeper essence. It's just a Course in Miracles calls a magic solution. And through all of this searching, eventually I came to this book called A Course in Miracles. Started reading it in 2006. And there was something about it that just hooked me. I was like, there's something pretty amazing about this. Didn't really understand it to start with. A lot of it went over my head, but I stuck with it. I kept reading it. There's a text, there's a workbook. I'll talk a bit more about it now soon. But decided that really there was something in here that I needed to master. It went way beyond any of these traditional therapies, psychotherapy, personal growth, etc. So that's a little bit of my story, just to tell you how I got here. I've been studying A Course in Miracles for 14 years, and that's really my spiritual path. I've also done a lot of meditation, been meditating for over 20 years, got into breath work 10 years ago in quite a big way. So kind of merged that all into a program which I call the Art of Letting Go course, and there's a whole program after that, which I'll talk about a bit later. But first of all, let me just talk about the objectives and structure of the masterclass. So I've already done this, guide you through a simple breath relaxation technique, a two-step letting go process. So that was meditation, but there was breath work incorporated into that. The two go hand in glove. Breath work is a technique, meditation is the modality, and breath work, breath relaxation leads to a meditative state. So you got a little experience of that and of letting go using the breath. Hope you enjoyed that. Just introduced myself very briefly, and I'll talk about A Course in Miracles just now in a bit more detail. I'm going to share 3 life-changing principles and 7 secret stress-busting techniques that will help you to live them consistently. Then I'm going to talk about the 1 key skill that you need to master to be authentically happy, find your flow, and higher purpose and experience true well-being, which is really the same as success. In my view, if you're not being well, then anything you achieve is pointless. So that's the new success. And explain how the Art of Letting Go course can help you to let go, find authentic happiness, fulfilling flow, and true well-being and success you want and deserve. I'm going to tell you how and when you can do the course, and we'll have some time for questions at the end. Okay, any questions so far? Still with me, Naresh?
Yes.
Good, okay. So I just went through the 2-step letting go process, added in a little bit of mind training from A Course in Miracles. I will send you that recording tomorrow, everyone. It's in the club, and Naresh, I'll send it to you as well. And I'm going to send you the 10-step letting go process as well, an instruction sheet, and a half-hour guided meditation to guide you through, just to say thank you for attending this. But you need to stay till the end, until the question and answer time. So to get that, if you're in the community, you've already got that. So for Naresh, just give you a little incentive to stay the whole course. Stay until the very end of the session. Okay. Talk a little bit about who I am, my story. Started as a squash player. I've run a lot of workshops and retreats physically, so that was in Mozambique. And did a number of those. We swam with dolphins, where I was teaching spiritual principles, mainly based on A Course in Miracles. Taught breath work and meditation. What I've done now is just taken all of that online. That's me and my fiancée then, she's now my wife, in Oxford Street, I think we were in London. So I went over to the UK in 2013. A friend invited me over to help him to start a business, raise some capital, which was totally not what I was doing at the time, but something me said, go, it's another opportunity, and it's changed my life. I met my wife, moved over to the UK. We had a son, and so I think all that changed in literally in a year. My whole life changed. I left behind my old life here. Business side started building, the sort of career I had. I had to let that go. Moved more into the financial industry. Started doing capital raising, and then moved into merchant services. And we had a son. I'd moved countries, continents, marriage, new family. It was a tremendous amount of change in a short time, and I think it put me into some kind of midlife crisis. It was a very, very difficult time in my life, but it was probably the best time. They were the worst of times and the best of times. Charles Dickens said it's probably the best time of my life as well, because I learned more in that time over the last 5 years and probably in the previous 40 years. And transformation doesn't happen unless there's some kind of crisis, some kind of pressure generally. So I'm very grateful for it and come through it. And I don't think I'd be doing this today. And this is sort of the product of my entire life, but certainly the last 5 years of pretty intense, rapid transformation, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, on every level. So that's me teaching a breathwork class in Shaftesbury, which is where we're living in the UK. There I am as in corporate mode. So as I said, I went into merchant services, started doing some capital raising. And there I am on the beach. So that's a few little views of me with my son. And who knows what's next. At the moment, I'm in the mountains, waiting to go back to the UK. I can't do that at the moment. I'm locked down. But so who knows? I'm just surrendering to the process. It's a little bit about me. And then I wanted to talk about A Course in Miracles. It's played a pretty major part in my life. As I said, I started working with a book in 2006, for about 14 years. Been working through it pretty diligently. It's quite a tome. There's about 1,300 pages in it. You might have come across it. Naresh, are you familiar with A Course in Miracles?
No, not really.
Not really. Okay. So I'll give you a little introduction to it, what it's about, because a lot of what I teach in the Ask Letting Go course is based on the teachings of A Course in Miracles. So there's a text of 669 pages explaining in detail the principles and philosophy on which the course is based. Then there's a 488-page workbook. It's made up of 365 daily lessons that are designed to systematically train your mind how to let go of its negativity and allow you to live in a miraculous state of mind. That's why it's called A Course in Miracles. It's about changing your perception in this world, pointing to another domain, another dimension, another world, but it's about finding this miraculous state of mind. And I call that flow. So when I talk about flow, it's this miraculous state of mind where you're peaceful, you're happy, and you're actually able to operate pretty effectively in this world, be a lot more effective and more successful at whatever you're doing, but without the stress, the straining, the striving that are so much a part of the ego's normal modus operandi. Then there's a manual for teachers. So that's about 92 pages, some additional guidance. There's a clarification of terms in there as well, in question and answer format, and a few other bits and pieces. But basically there's three main parts to the course: the text, the workbook, and the manual for teachers. The two major parts are the text and the workbook. If you're doing the course, you're really working with both of those. So what is it? Where did it come from? Well, it was transmitted by Jesus. He identified himself as such to an American professor of psychology named Helen Schuckman between 1965 and 1972. So it's about 50 odd years old as a spiritual path. She was probably the most unlikely candidate to be chosen, but that's sometimes how it works. She was a psychologist. She was academic by nature. She was atheistic. She was quite highly strung, quite anxious, and she never fully accepted the message in A Course in Miracles herself, even though she was the scribe, so it would come through her. It would be like a rapid dictation that Jesus gave to her. And how it arose, I'll tell you the story because it's quite pertinent. Her and her colleague, Bill Thetford, he was her boss basically at the College of Physicians and Surgeons in New York City. It was part of Columbia University. And there was a lot of infighting, a lot of conflict in the department, as there is in a lot of organizations. And they were driving to a disciplinary hearing, which was a pretty frequent occurrence. And he just said in frustration, turned to him and said, this is crazy. I'm so sick and tired of all this conflict and fighting. Surely there must be a better way. And Helen said to him, yes, there must be, and I'll help you find it. And so there was a meeting of minds. There was a joining of minds, as the Course would call, in another purpose, a purpose to find a better way of living, really. And very soon afterwards, this voice, she started having dreams, quite vivid dreams on which Jesus featured, and she saw herself as a priestess. And this voice of Jesus started talking to her and saying pretty helpful things. She was quite highly strung, so it said, well, just, calm down, Helen. And this sort of started happening for a few months. And then one night in October of 1965, this voice said to her, Jesus' voice said to her, this is A Course in Miracles, please take notes. And she was a bit freaked out. She had confided in Bill and she told him what was happening. So she phoned him and she said, what do you think I should do? He said, well, just do what it says, write it down and bring in your notes to work in the morning, and we'll have a look at them. We'll see what it's all about. And so she started writing. And she brought in the notes the next day, and he read this. He said, well, no disrespect, Helen, but this isn't from you. This is something way beyond you. And she said, yes, I know. I'm freaked out by it. And so started this process of transcription of A Course in Miracles. Over a period of 7 years, Jesus would speak to Helen whenever, could come at any time of the day or night, and she would write, sometimes for an hour or two, and then it would stop, and then the voice would come again a day or two later, and she would pick it up. It would just pick up where it had left off, and she'd take in her notes, and they would be transcribed by Bill Thetford. And that was all produced into a 3-part book with 3 parts originally. So the text, the workbook, and the manual for teachers, and eventually was published in 1976 without a copyright notice, which means that it's actually free of copyright. So it's freely available on the internet. So you don't actually have to buy the course to do it, and you don't have to buy the course to do my course, the Art of Letting Go course. It's all available on the internet. And I just send you the links to the reading. which is quite appropriate because it's really a teaching for the world. I don't think it should be owned by anyone. So what is it? It's a systematic mind training course, really, to teach you a radically different way of thinking about and perceiving everything, the entire world, yourself, everything you see in the world, from a non-dual perspective. So what a non-dual perspective means is that you're not perceiving duality, you're not perceiving opposites. That's the basis of this reality. Everything's got an opposite. There's light and dark, hot and cold, up and down, and so on, male and female. You start to perceive very differently from a non-dual perspective. So it's pretty radical, but it's in alignment with spiritual teachings and paths from other traditions. So Naresh, I don't know if you're a Hindu or Muslim, but you might be familiar with the Advaita Vedanta.
Yes.
You heard of that?
Sorry? Yes.
You've heard of Advaita. Okay. Are you a Hindu or a Muslim?
Yeah. No, I mean
Hindu. Okay. So Hinduism really devolved from the Advaita Vedanta. The Vedas were this timeless wisdom that the yogis and the mystics came across. They wrote it down, and then Hinduism sort of a devolvement of it, and there's various gods and so on. But at the top of it, there's this non-dual teaching, Advaita Vedanta. And so Bill Thetford actually called the Course in Miracles the Western version of the Advaita Vedanta, because it's a non-dual teaching, which is the highest teaching. There's nowhere else to go. Non-dual means you've gone beyond duality. You go back to a singular consciousness, a oneness, God, call it whatever you want, where you're whole, you're complete, and everything's perfect. And that's what all the great spiritual teachings point to. All the great masters, Jesus, Buddha, and various others who've graced us with their presence over thousands of years have taught the same thing, really. That there's a reality beyond this duality that we seem to live in. So it's designed to teach you how to forgive or to let go. I prefer the word letting go, but it's really the same thing. Of course, uses the term forgiveness, but that can be misinterpreted. A lot of people don't really understand what forgiveness means. There's misinterpretation based on religious ideas of what forgiveness is. Letting go is not that easy to misinterpret. It's letting go of the thought and of the belief and of the emotion that causes you and others to suffer. That's as simple as that. So if you having an issue with someone, you don't forgive them as such. You actually let go of your own feelings of anger or attack or feeling hardly done by or resentful or whatever. You let go of that. When you do that, you've forgiven them. So that's why I've called it the art of letting go, because it is an art. It's probably the greatest art we can all learn. And finally, it's a spiritual path that if you follow it, will allow you to live happily, peacefully, and lovingly. And all of that I call flow. When you can live happily, peacefully, and lovingly and operate in the world, then you're in flow. And ultimately, you can attain enlightenment, which is this state of, thank you for the reminder, Debbie, state of transcendence, where you've transcended the world. And that's ultimately where it's leading. But he's saying the scope of the course is to help you to transform your perception while you're here. So you can live more happily and more peacefully and more lovingly. And if you can do that, then enlightenment will look after itself. You know, where you go once you let go of the body, you lay the body aside, you die, will look after itself, because you're in that state of mind already. So any questions? Naresh, you following this?
all good. Yeah.
All good. Okay. If you have any questions at any point,
All good. Yeah.
just let's make it interactive. Just talk to me and say, I'm not sure about this. So some well-known students of the course. You might have heard of Marianne Williamson. She's actually a presidential candidate. She's trying to get the Democratic presidential candidacy. I don't think she'll succeed, but she's running for it. So she's quite high profile. She's been featured on Oprah Winfrey show. So she's probably one of the best known teachers and students of the course. Madiba, Nelson Mandela, he wasn't actually a student, as far as I know, of the course itself. but he was influenced by Marianne Williamson's ideas. He must have read her book, because when he came out of prison in 1990, in his first speech, he quoted from her book, which is based on A Course in Miracles teachings, called A Return to Love. The quote is, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate." You're probably familiar with it. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, which most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. As we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And he quoted that, so a lot of people think it's his quote, but actually it's from Marianne Williamson, and that's drawn directly from A Course in Miracles teachings. That's what she's based her teachings on. Oprah Winfrey, you're probably familiar with. She's friends with Marianne Williamson. Marianne's kind of her spiritual guru, so she's studying a course. Deepak Chopra, you're probably familiar with him. Wayne Dyer started to get into the course in his latter years. Interesting, he sort of had a journey from personal growth, because he was a very successful personal growth author. I remember reading his first book called Your Erroneous Zones. Very much about the mind and working on your erroneous zones. But in his latter years, his last 15, 20 years of life, he started to get much more into the spiritual stuff, started studying things like the Vedanta and A Course in Miracles. And his books changed. Eckhart Tolle is now working with A Course in Miracles quite frequently. If you've watched any of his videos recently, he refers to it, he reads out of it, he quotes from it. So some pretty high profile spiritual teachers, and that's a guy called Michael Beckwith, who's also quite well known in the States. And there's others, but so there's a few pretty well known spiritual teachers and statesmen who've studied or been influenced by the Course. So let me ask you a question. It's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it. Why are you here today? And it must be because you're looking for something. If you weren't seeking for anything, everything was perfectly hunky-dory, you were happy, content, peaceful, then there would be no need to look anywhere. You might think you're looking for better health, more wealth, better relationships, a better quality of life, just relief from stress, anxiety, depression. Some people are just like, I just don't want to be so stressed anymore. But ultimately, what are you really looking for? Just pause and reflect on that. Underneath all of these things, what are you really looking for? And if you're going to put a word on it, it would be happiness, wouldn't it be? Whatever you want to call it. You could call it happiness, you could call it love, you could call it peace. Ultimately, we're all looking for that feeling of feeling okay, feeling reasonably happy, peaceful, contented. These are just words that point to an emotion, a feeling, a state of mind, a state of being. What we think is that these things will get us there. If we have better health, we have more wealth, we have better relationships, different relationship, we have better quality of life, material things, we have relief from stress, anxiety, that we'll be happier, that we'll feel better about ourselves. But often the problem is, and the reason why we haven't found lasting happiness yet, is we're looking outside of ourselves for it. We're looking in the wrong place. So we think that we'll be happy when we have better or more health and fitness. That's a big one. We see images of fit, healthy, young, sexy bodies all the time in the media, and we're told that we have to live up to this. Now, obviously, as we get older, it's harder and harder to do that, and most people just don't. So then you feel less than perfect. Money, of course, is a big one, and the things that money can buy. So a nice car goes with a nice lifestyle, a nice house, a special relationship. That's a huge one. You know, Mr. or Mrs. Right, your twin soul, your perfect match. And what goes along with that is sex, which is used to sell an awful lot of products and services. Travel and holidays. So that's a big one, although recently no one's been able to do that. So if you're a travel fundy, then you have to do without that. And pleasurable experiences, whether that's fine dining, whatever you define as pleasure. And the world sort of holds these things out to us and says, well, that's what's going to make you happy. Obviously, there's always someone or some company willing to sell it to you for a price. And so you need to work to earn money to get these things that are going to seemingly make you happy. That's kind of the program, etc. Whatever it is for you. But that's a major one. It's a major seeming sources of happiness. The truth is none of those are going to work, are they? And we kind of all know this deep down. They're not really going to work because none of them are permanent. Your health can come and go. Money comes and goes. Lifestyle, relationships, none of these things are permanent. They won't last. So how can you rely on lasting happiness on something that's not lasting? By definition, it doesn't make much sense, except this is what the world does. It's what everyone is seeking. Not everyone, but most people seeking. So the truth is that happiness isn't a goal in itself. You make happiness a goal, then you set up certain things that you need to do, certain things that you need to have and experience in order to be happy. Not a goal in itself. It happens as a byproduct. I love this quote. Happiness is a butterfly, which, when pursued, is always just beyond your grasp, but which, if you will sit down quietly, may come and alight on you. That's from a book written in 1885. So people who call this stuff New Age, it's been around a very, very long time. It's thousands of years old. The search for happiness is really man's oldest quest. And this kind of puts it in a nutshell. If you just sit down quietly and you can still your mind, it may come and alight on you. Maybe you experienced a little bit of that in the meditation we did. Because it's there as your natural state. But you have to let go of the mind patterns of all the thinking and the desiring. Buddha said it very well, desire is the source of all suffering. Whenever you desire, you have an expectation, you go out of the now, and if you don't get what you desire, then you feel disappointed. Even if you do get what you desire, often you feel disappointed. It's like, well, I thought this would make me permanently happy, and it hasn't worked. And so then we move on to the next thing. The ego says to us, well, okay, if that didn't work, then get more of it, or get something else, get something different. We'll never tell you just to sit down quietly and let happiness arise. That's called meditation, by the way. So where can you find authentic happiness? That's the question. We're seeking and reseeking. The ego's mantra is seek and seek, but never really find the answer. And the answer is pretty simple. It's been pointed to by all the great spiritual teachers and masters. This is another one. Another pointer from a guy called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who is the founder of the concept of flow. I wouldn't say he's the founder. Flow as a concept is thousands of years old, but he coined the term flow fairly recently. Started writing books in about the 1970s. And he's sort of the world's leading expert on flow. And this is what he has to say about it. So to know oneself is the first step toward making flow a part of one's entire life. But just as there is no free lunch in the material economy, nothing comes free in the psychic one. If one is not willing to invest psychic energy in the internal reality of consciousness and instead squanders it in chasing external rewards, one loses mastery of one's life and ends up becoming a puppet of circumstances. So he's just saying what I've said and what pretty much every spiritual master has said throughout the ages. You squander it in chasing external rewards. You squander your consciousness on this seeking outside of yourself, or something external, you lose mastery of your life. You lose control of your thoughts and your emotions, because now you're a puppet of circumstances. Things don't go the way you want. You can get easily upset. You can become angry. You can become depressed. And it's like the world, you're the puppet of the world, puppet of circumstances, the victim of the world. And what he's pointing to here is that we have to know ourselves if we're going to find happiness. You can't be in flow until you find happiness. It's kind of a prerequisite. To know oneself is the first step. Know thyself. Noti sayaton in Greek, or temet noske in Latin. That's from the little clip from the movie Matrix, which you may or may not have seen. So there's Neo's head. He's visiting the oracle, who's come telling him his, not really his future. She's just telling him to look inside. She says, "What did you know what that means?" He says, "No, know thyself." She said, you gotta, said something like, "You've got the gift, but you still doubt yourself." We've all got it. We've all got that knowledge inside of us, but there's a part of our mind that doubts us. It doubts that. And the journey is to overcome that doubt and to learn who we truly are. So those are some of the principles, but really there's one key to happiness, and that's called self-discipline. Happiness often just relies on this one character trait. If you can't discipline your mind, you can't discipline yourself to think in certain ways, to think more constructively, to feel higher emotions, and to maybe do the practices that help you to do that, things like meditation and breath work and letting go, forgiveness, then it will remain elusive. So the self-discipline to do what? Well, these spiritual practices. So you can do things that will allow this happiness to arise in you. I call these key spiritual practices. So conscious breathing, did a little bit of that this morning. Multidimensional meditation. Forgiveness or letting go. So I'll talk about these in more detail as we go along. But multidimensional meditation, you experience a little taste of that. Because that little meditation we did incorporated breath work, it incorporated some mind training. We used the mind. We did some letting go, incorporated forgiveness and letting go, incorporated visualization of light, incorporated some sound with the toning, making that sound with the breath. So incorporating a number of different aspects that really help your mind to not to wander. So all of these things are just mantras that the mind can start using to let go of the monkey mind chatter. There's group discussion sessions. So that's another pretty little known technique. So these are secret techniques in some ways. So rather than me just, for instance, talking to you in some kind of flat presentation, we have group discussion sessions where it's very interactive. You discuss, you ask questions. People can share their questions, their comments, their experiences, and we all learn from that. And it's a great learning modality because it's not linear. It's much more in tune with holographic nature of reality. And our minds don't get bored as easily if there's people interacting. It's more conversational. And fifth one is reading and listening to spiritual texts, such as from A Course in Miracles, or there's other great texts that you can choose to read. End of day reflection. So you just pause and you do a little reflection at the end of the day. Just trying to learn as much as you can from the day. So instead of repeating the same mistakes day in and day out, end of day reflection just help you to reflect and say, okay, so what did I really learn from this, and how could I do things better? And it creates a little process to help you to do these last two, and a pre-bed relaxation as well. So just putting yourself in a nice space, a nice state of mind, clearing all the negativity and the garbage out so that you have a better sleep. You go to sleep, you sleep better, you wake refreshed the next day, and you're not carrying the baggage from the previous day into the next day. So you diet every day. So those are the 7 spiritual techniques I promised to share with you. some of them are meditation, not a secret, but doing it multi-dimensionally, all these different elements in them. So incorporate breath work, incorporate auditory, oral, visual, visualization, kinesthetic, feeling. That isn't that common. Often meditation tends to be quite one-dimensional. And then I also promised to share the 3 secrets with you. So first secret is the key to authentic happiness. So really how to let go of any negative thoughts or emotions, no matter how challenging the situation provoking them seems to be. If you can develop that ability, then you can be happy no matter what's happening inside of you. Number 2 is the key to fulfilling flow. So how do you remain poised and enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately? So this is living happiness, really living happiness moment by moment, enjoying the moment, being able to take positive action to respond to any situation appropriately in the moment. Key to true success, how to be happy and in flow in every aspect of your life. Live an extraordinary, ordinary life. Gives you and others miraculous experiences and results regularly. And that is really a state of well-being. If you're living a life like that, pretty difficult to argue that you're not successful. So let's talk about key to authentic happiness, first of all. So a couple of key principles. Happiness or unhappiness is always experienced in your own mind. Only your own negative thoughts and feelings can make you unhappy. If those 2 premises are true, then learning how to let go of your negative thoughts and emotions must be the key to your happiness. There's no other way, in truth, because those things are true. And happiness or unhappiness is experienced in your own mind, so not anywhere else, not outside of your mind. And only your own negative thoughts about and feelings can make you unhappy. It seems that other things are making you unhappy, but it's really your thoughts and your feelings about them that are making you unhappy. So because those first 2 things are true, learning how to let go of your negative thoughts and emotions is the key. It's the key to your happiness. So a little case study. So there's a guy by the name of Phil. Phil's in his 80s. And he did the first Art of Letting Go course I did a couple of years ago. He said, I've learned more about the course. And he's talking about Course in Miracles when he refers to the course. In the last 6 weeks of the Art of Letting Go course that he did. And in the last 27 years of studying it, which I took as a great compliment. I've been studying it half the time he had. And I've learned more about it in the 6 weeks in the last 27 years of studying it. And he said, I learned how to forgive truly, which is really what A Course in Miracles was trying to teach. It's the key benefit that he got out of the course. He had a major breakthrough on the last day of the course after the holotropic breathing session, which I'll talk about just now. So we did the session, and then he actually repeated it himself the next day, and he listened to the music track I'd shared with him. And he sent me this in that morning, the last day of the course. And he said, I replayed the music, and I realized how unfair and ungrateful I'd been, never acknowledging just how fortunate I was to have such great parents. He always had some issue with his parents, always thought they were somehow not good enough. And it was then that I had a catharsis. I broke down and sobbed my heart out. In that long moment, I was able to forgive myself and also ask my parents for their forgiveness. So I've been carrying this baggage around all my life at a huge cost. So 70 odd years since he was a kid, and in 6 weeks he managed to let it go and shift it. And as he said, had a catharsis. So that was a lovely story. And the truth is, what led to it wasn't just that session; it was the whole 6 week process that he'd been on. It was the culmination of a process that he'd undertaken. So the benefits of meditation. This is the study I was going to talk about for John's benefit. Everyone's still with me, by the way. Let me just check in. Naresh, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. Carol?
Yes.
John, you still with us?
John's there, yeah.
Okay, great. Maybe still there. So a recent study, they did a study where quite a large group, let's get the actual numbers, they meditated with a compassionate intent. So it wasn't just, there's kind of two ways of meditating. You just do mindfulness meditation where you just sit quietly, you watch your breath, for instance. And that's powerful in itself. That has some great benefits. And there's many studies that have shown that. But in this particular study, they meditated with a compassionate intent. So there was a sense of, I'm going to actually extend love and compassion to people in my life, to people I don't even know, to the entire world, to all living creatures. And they did this for half an hour a day, just half an hour a day over a period of 8 weeks. And the study found that they became a lot less stressed, number one, therefore a lot less reactive to other people's negativity and suffering. And they did some research, or they did trials where they hooked them up to ECG scans, and so they could monitor their brainwave activity. And they did sort of before and after, before the 8 weeks started, after the 8 weeks. And they saw that the people who'd done the program reacted a lot less. Their amygdala, which sits at the base of the brain, it's kind of the source of all the fight or flight response mechanism. It's our very primitive brain that operates in a very reactive way and puts us into the fight or flight mode. So they exposed them to images of people suffering, of negativity, and they watched their reaction. And after 8 weeks, the people who'd done the course reacted much less. The amygdala didn't react as much, and another part of the brain started to light up. They saw that the sort of neocortex, higher frontal lobes, started to light up, which is associated with higher thought, higher thinking, and higher states of mind and emotions. And they tracked all that, via the ECG scans. And they found them to be more compassionate. So they noticed their behavior, and they were far more likely to be kinder, to give up their seat for someone who's elderly, that kind of thing, than they were before the 8 weeks. And that's just with half an hour a day over a period of 8 weeks. So meditation rewires your brain. It rewires your mental and emotional circuitry. It rewires your biochemistry, because it's all linked up. Our body produces these powerful stress chemicals when we're stressed. It causes us to become reactive. It causes us to be less compassionate, less loving, less peaceful. Those chemicals are called cortisol, adrenaline, there's epinephrine, norepinephrine. Basically, they are designed by the body to put you into a fight or flight mode, where all of your resources, all of your energy is activated for an emergency. So quite useful if you're being attacked by a lion. It's a life or death situation. That's why it was developed thousands and thousands of years ago. But in today's world, most of the time, that's not really effective. Most of the time, we just react in stress when we perceive some kind of external threat. And that can be the coronavirus statistics on the TV. It can be the thought of losing your job. It can be a conflict with your partner or your kids. Anything like that can trigger this fight or flight response and all these chemicals. And we get addicted to it. The more that happens, the more that process happens, the more addicted we actually become to stress and negativity and suffering. And those emotions become hardwired into us chemically. That's why it's often hard to change, because we're wired up to it. But meditation is probably the most effective way. Compassionate meditation, I found, was even more effective than just a mindful meditation. To start really undoing that stress reaction program and going into a much calmer, more relaxed, less reactive state of mind. And they saw those benefits lasting after the meditation. The brainwave activity of these people changed when they were in their normal waking state after 8 weeks. It wasn't like only in meditation. So it profoundly rewires you. And it should really be something that everyone is taught. You should be taught to meditate when we're kids, encouraged to practice it regularly. It should be like, well, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you bath every day. Why don't we clean our minds? It hasn't become mainstream. It's starting to become more so. The mindfulness movement, more and more people are starting to turn to meditation. There's thousands of meditation apps and so on, but the average person in society still doesn't meditate every day. And there are numerous other studies. I'll send you some research that confirm that regular meditation lowers your stress levels, it boosts your immunity, it improves mental and physical health and well-being. There's many studies that confirm that over and over and over again. So the research backs it up, but ultimately it's not about the research, it's about your experience. So when you do a meditation, I think if we do it right, we all feel more peaceful, we feel more loving, we feel more compassionate. I certainly do. And it's that shift internally that really makes the difference to your life. Okay, so that's secret number one, and a little bit of research and a case study to back it up. Number two, key to fulfilling flow. This is learning how to remain poised and enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately. So how do you stay poised? How do you be in the moment rather than getting reactive? And then how do you take truly positive or inspired action to respond to any situation appropriately? If you can do that, then you're in flow. Simple as that. So this is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who's the world's leading expert on flow. It's when we act freely for the sake of the action itself rather than for ulterior motives. We learn to become more than what we were. So again, it's pointing us to a deeper state of being, who we really are. It's not about the external outcome. And I learned this through squash. I used to be very focused on the outcome, it would stress me out, and unsurprisingly, I didn't play very well when I was in that state. And then one night I had an experience where I just totally let go. I had a lot of anxiety about the match. It was with a chap who was older at my club, and I'd lost to him previously in the season in the club champs. And this was our derby, so the two sides, and everyone was coming out to watch and putting a lot of pressure on myself. I've got to perform because basically everything's at stake, and I want to be the world champion, and I've got to win and all this stuff. And somehow I went into that match and I managed to just let go of it all, and not really worry about the outcome. I just managed to blank my mind. I didn't have a strategy. I wasn't thinking about winning or losing. And I went on and I probably played the most unbelievable match of my life. It just kind of flowed out of me. It wasn't like I was doing it. As Eckhart Tolle says quite well in this quote. So artistic creation, sports, dance, teaching, counseling, mastery in any field of endeavor implies that the thinking mind is either no longer involved at all, or at least is taking second place. A power and intelligence greater than you, and yet one with you in essence, takes over. And I really did feel this. It was like I just surrendered, and this greater power just took over. It happened to me, through me, and for me, but I didn't have to make any decisions. Spontaneous right action just happened, and there was no sense of anyone doing it. It was happening through me. I really did have exactly this experience that he describes in this paragraph. And then mastery, he says, mastery of life is the opposite of control. You become aligned with a greater consciousness. It acts, speaks, and does the works, which is what it's about. That's what flow is. You're not really doing it. You've handed it over. You've surrendered. And there's a much greater power that comes through you. And you're capable of doing so much more. This is the state of miracle-mindedness that A Course in Miracles talks about. A little case study on that. So this is a guy by the name of Wim from Kruwenau, who did the first course I did. And he put this in the Facebook group. So I'm in a Facebook group. Just briefly summarizing it, he said he was playing a tennis match, social match of tennis, and nothing, it's not a tournament or anything, against a friend who was slightly better than him. And he really wanted to win. Really wanted to win at least a set, but his desire to win made him extremely frustrated and irritated, and it escalated and snowballed. He tried to force points, he made worse mistakes, everything got worse, and the whole match became a very unpleasant experience for him. And he said, looking back, I realized I should have tried to take a few deep breaths, get some perspective on the whole thing, get some perspective on the ego strategy to belittle me, wanting me to think thoughts of unworthiness, meaningless thoughts of winning, the importance of performing well. The heat of the moment is quite difficult to hold momentum. He said, I struggle with my temper at times. The ego knows how to push my buttons. It doesn't happen for a long time. So interesting that happened at the start of the course. And that often does happen. Some stuff gets triggered and get brought up when you do this kind of work. He says, I think I must, there will be defeats along the way, but I mustn't harbor guilt, must forgive the circumstances and stay in the present. So I shared my experience. I've just shared with you on the squash court with him in one of our discussion sessions. Taught him a little bit of the breathing, and he then applied it the next week. He played the same guy. He said, I just kept it in mind. I centered myself. I breathed. I experienced peace, and I played much better. And just to take a set off him, but actually beat him in 3 sets. It's a complete reversal of the previous week's experience, just because he was in a different state of mind, which he'd never done before. And he said, I realized that it wasn't about competition and winning. It was really about the experience. I was in flow. I really enjoyed it, and I was at peace. I experienced God's pleasure in me. Of that, he's actually a chaplain in the army. So he experienced this pleasure of God coming through him. I also learned that I can choose to let go of anger, which doesn't work, and be at peace instead. And so remember, one of the principles of flow was it's not about the outcome. It's about learning more about yourself. So this was a classic flow experience. He had exactly that experience. He learned more about himself. The outcome looked after itself because he was in the right state of mind. So instead of being outcome oriented, he was process oriented, and he just enjoyed the experience. So secret number 3, the key to wonderful well-being, just learning how to be happy and in flow in every aspect of your life. So there's some people who can do it, for instance, in a sporting context, and they can get in flow there, but in the rest of their life they can't. So like being able to do it in every part of your life. Live an extraordinary, ordinary life. That doesn't mean you do necessarily extraordinary things. It means that you have an extraordinary experience of ordinary things. So whether you're cooking or shopping, driving, talking to someone in a meeting, working, doing whatever, that experience becomes extraordinary because you're in a state of flow. And so it's a much more peaceful, surrendered state. It's not the normal stressing, straining, and striving program that the ego likes people to be in. And that will give you and other people, so it's about sharing with others through yourself, these miraculous experiences and results regularly. And a miracle is just a state of mind where you're in flow, you're at peace, you're loving. That's all it is. And when you can shift from fear to love, that's the miraculous experience. The results just follow from that. When you're in the right state of mind, the results follow automatically. So another case study, this is a lady by the name of Robin who did the first course I ran. And I think she's now in her 50s. She was in her late 40s then when she wrote this. So the end of the course, this was her sort of summation of her benefits. She said, I have peace, a lot less anxiety, I sleep better, I don't take painkillers anymore for stress headaches, because she used to take pills, again, as a solution. So that just, the need for those disappeared. She had better relationships with her children, and not as frightened or worried. She's a working mother, she's busy, she's got two kids growing up, and it just helped her to cope with that. And I want to just share a video that she kindly recorded for me last year. This was about 8 or 9 months after she did the initial course. And I just asked her to share her experience, say, is this still working for you? But she's still part of the community, actually. So it's put her on a different path in life. That 6 weeks has really been life-changing for her. I'll let you tell her in her own words. Coming. There we go.
Hi, my name's Robin. I did the course last year with Jonathan. I'd never heard of the course before. Something entirely different to me, although I've been practicing meditation meditation. I've been going to breathworks for some time, trying genuinely to find peace. I'm a mum, I work, I've got a normal busy life. I've been plagued with headaches, I've been plagued with sore necks and the normal problems that people have. I found that through the course and joining the online community, I found a group of like-minded people all exploring the course. The course is fundamentally different. At first I thought it was all about religion, which it wasn't. Although it is about God, and I do believe in God, and it made a great deal of sense in my life that the only thing is really that we concentrate on is God. It's about finding love. It's about being kinder to people. I still listen to the teachings every day. I've found that by listening to the teachings and following the book and reading, I have become more compassionate. I've become a nicer person. I feel less guilty. I feel that the world is a different place. I don't feel that the world is always a good place. It's not. But I believe that it impacts me less. I used to be traumatized by the world. I used to lie awake and worry about things that are happening in my children and my life, and worry about my past and worry about the future. I found that I've achieved a sense of peace. And if nothing else, I'm really grateful to Jono and the people I met on the course, because that sense of peace has helped me to heal many parts of my life. I no longer have headaches. I used to suffer with headaches. I used to have terrible neck pain that I was on painkillers on all the time. And honestly, those things have gone away. I don't take painkillers for my neck, and I don't have headaches anymore. My relationships with my children are much better, and my relationship with myself is a lot better. So in all, it's taken a lot of the jagged edges of life, and it's just made life more bearable. And if you think about it, we're probably going to be here for a long time. So if it continues to get more and more bearable, and as I say, each day I learn a new lesson, and it does make life a little bit different and a little bit better, and I see things a little bit more clearly. And that to me has been significant.
Okay, so thank you for that, Robin. Everyone's still with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so where to from here? I've shared a bit of information with you. Hopefully that hasn't been information overload. But really, it's not about information. Learning new information is a necessary, but not a sufficient step for a true transformation of mind to happen. So there's two ways to have true transformation. First way is what I call the way of the cross. Through intense pain and suffering, you're forced to go within and break through suddenly to a new level of understanding and wisdom. And that's kind of the traditional way, but often people have woken up. Give you an example of that. Eckhart Tolle's one. He was very anxious, very depressed for his entire life. And in his late 20s, it kind of reached a culmination to a point where he was suicidal. He was lying in bed one night going, I can't stand myself anymore. And that thought made him realize that there must be two selves. Sort of describes it as kind of hang on, there must be an I that's true, that can't stand another self. And I guess because he had such intense emotional pain and suffering, kind of cracked open his mind. And he describes it like he went into some kind of vortex where he just passed out. Fortunately, he was in bed at the time. So he passed out, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and he just saw the world anew. It's like everything was just light and peaceful, and he saw the light everywhere. All of that heaviness and that darkness of his ego had gone. But it took him 29 years of pain and suffering to get there. So that's one way, and that doesn't happen that often. People suddenly have such a massive breakthrough, a massive shift in one night. Normally it's more gradual. And so the second way is through conscious, disciplined practice of spiritual ideas and techniques like breathwork and meditation. The 7 techniques I've shared with you would fall into that category, key spiritual practices. You systematically grow in understanding and wisdom, and that's called the way of mastery. And this is also a very ancient path. There have been many spiritual teachers and teachings that give these kinds of spiritual techniques. Yoga is probably the first one that was systematized by a guy called Patanjali 2,000 odd years ago, based on thousands of years of wisdom. He just put it into basically a system and wrote it down. And there have been many others since. There's many different kinds of techniques. But there's certain fundamentals. Meditation is one of them. Forgiveness or letting go is another one. Breathwork is another one. And so I've just incorporated those fundamentals into a program, which I'm going to talk to you about just now. So the principles of transformation through mastery. First of all, it's understanding and realization through your personal experience. So it's not about theology. It's not about dogma. It's your own personal experience of these concepts. There's no point going, I'm studying peace and love and joy theoretically. It has to be a personal experience. Otherwise, it's meaningless. It's just another mind-created dogma or theology. It does require your active willingness and disciplined effort. You're not going to get there without some effort and some willingness. We put huge amounts of effort into all kinds of material goals. We understand if you want a nice lifestyle, you've got to work hard, you've got to generate the income. Nothing comes from nothing. And yet somehow on a spiritual level, we sort of think, well, okay, it should just happen. We should just be happy. It does require a lot of willingness and disciplined effort, as I pointed out earlier. I think self-discipline is the key to happiness. And doing these key spiritual practices, so for example, forgiveness, letting go, breathing, and meditation, regularly is essential. If you don't do these things, then how can you have the experience? I mean, not sitting quietly and stilling your mind. How can you have the experience of the happiness arising? You just don't, because your normal pattern just continues. So it's about interrupting the normal pattern of thought and emotion and behavior through these key spiritual practices, which can be greatly facilitated by another personal group who help to raise the initiates. I'm using alchemical language here. If you're on this path seriously, then you're called an initiate in spiritual terms, by transmitting positive energy and holding him or her accountable. So if you're part of a group, the positive energy rubs off. You're part of a negative group, we know that rubs off as well. There's a personal growth saying that, show me the company you keep, your 5 closest friends, the people you spend the most time with, and I'll tell you the state of your life. It's quite true, because the energy rubs off. So if you're in a group with positive energy, even though you're not physically there, it doesn't matter. Energy transmits across time and space. You don't need to be physically there. There's an energy transmission happening right now, and we're hundreds of miles apart. And also there's this accountability factor. So when you're part of a group and there's a process going on, then you just naturally feel more accountable. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm part of something. It's not just me. So too often what happens with people, and you might have had this experience yourself, you're like, yeah, I want to do this, and then somehow you just, you get busy and you don't do it, you don't meditate, you don't do spiritual practice, you don't read, and there's no one holding accountable. There's no process. So it's like, well, no one's going to say, well, why aren't you doing that, or remind you to do it. And so you just slip, and it just never happens. And that's probably the experience of a lot of people who have good intentions, but just can't see it through. Naresh, have you experienced any of that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it's a common experience,
especially it's very common.
Because it does take work. It takes work and time and commitment, and we've got all these distractions. We've created a world with multiple distractions, and it's so easy just to not do it. You go, yeah, I want to meditate, but no, I'm too busy tonight. I'm too busy this morning. I've got to get ready for work. And you know, that starts happening repeatedly as a pattern, and then you realize you're not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. If I'm not doing it, then how can I expect to get any benefits from it? And I've had times in my life when I've meditated pretty consistently for 20 years, but as I shared with you, we had a child, a young baby, you know, and you're trying to create a new life and going to a new field and you know, earning money. Man, it's so easy just to start to lose it and go like, I'm not doing this anymore, and because like I've got all these other time constraints and pressures, and you know, you definitely feel the difference. I certainly did. When you meditate regularly, you can feel the difference compared with when you're not. It makes an immediate difference to your experience for the next few hours, and then you top it up again. And if you keep doing that regularly, your whole consciousness starts transforming. You become a different person, and that's the power of this stuff. So let me talk about the Art of Letting Go course, give you a little overview of it. So it's a facilitated 6-week mind and life transformation process. Right? It's about mind training. That's where it all starts. If you can transform your mind, you can transform your life. There's no other way of doing it. It's based on the way of mastery, which I've shared. So this systematic, disciplined approach to doing your spiritual practices regularly, and something called immersion learning. I'll explain that a little bit. So immersion learning is a process where you immerse yourself into a field. It's actually used in language. So for instance, they say, you know, instead of trying to study French and learn the grammar, do some kind of course and learn it that way. Immersion learning would be, right, go to France and actually do a cookery course and learn the language while you're learning to cook and you're learning about French culture. Much better way of learning, isn't it? But you immerse yourself in it for 3 months and you'll learn French along with the culture and everything that goes with it much quicker and much better if you do it that way. So that's the idea. For 6 weeks, you immerse yourself in this. And what you do is you do these spiritual practices, key spiritual practices, including the discussion and meditation sessions. You did a live meditation session. We have discussion sessions via Zoom. So it's not just me presenting, it's pretty interactive. You can ask questions, you can share your experiences, and you get to hear other people's experiences as well. Conscious breathing, self-study, these spiritual texts, solo meditation, all of those seven key spiritual techniques are included in this course. And the goal is to help you to learn to let go of any fearful, stressful thoughts and emotions whenever they arise. Because the truth is, fear and stress are really one and the same thing. Deepak Chopra said pretty well. He said, stress is just a perception of external threat, isn't it? When I'm stressed, I'm perceiving some kind of threat to it might be imaginary because it's ego-based, but I'm still perceiving it in my mind. So I think that I'm threatened. I think my physical well-being's been threatened, my financial, my emotional well-being. Somehow, something outside of me can threaten me. That's the basis of all stress, and that's also fear. You're fearing that something outside of you is going to harm you in some way. And so letting go of fear and stress are really one and the same thing. And how do you do that? How do you learn to let go as they arise in a matter of minutes, maybe even seconds? And that's the key skill. And in my view, that's the one key life skill that you need to learn. Because if you can do that, then everything opens up. If you can let go of negativity, then there's only positive energy, only positive thoughts, emotions running through you. Well, you're going to get much more positive results, which are the secrets that I shared. So authentic happiness is you'll know how to let go of any negative thoughts or emotions. You might not always do it straight away, but at the end of the 6 weeks, you will know how to do it. I've told you how to do it. You'll have learned how to do it. And once you've got that knowledge, you can't ever undo it. You can't suddenly go, oh, well, I just unknow that. No, you know that it's possible to let go. And then you have the choice whether you can do it or not in any particular situation, no matter how challenging that situation appears to be, and choose to be happy instead. So as an extreme example, Jesus himself was crucified. And instead of getting angry and condemning his his seeming persecutors, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they do." One of the sort of most famous spiritual sayings or teachings. No matter how challenging. So he's been crucified. They've taken his life. They've beaten him. Pretty much the worst thing that can possibly happen to the body, and yet he's willing to forgive them. A very, very powerful lesson there. So just a couple of little testimonials from people who've done the course. So this is Debbie, who joined us earlier. Debbie, you still there? No, I think she's dropped off. So said it helped me to see my subconscious patterns and stop me from doing things in my life that are good for me, like yoga, meditation, etc. And that revelation has been huge. Very grateful I did your course. Gave me a great deal to think about. And Debbie's still part of the community, more than 6 months later. We're about 8 months after the course finished, and the course she did in October last year. She does the meditations most days, most of the meditations, live meditations she's still doing. So it's changed her life. So another lady, Chichi, who did the first 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And she said it makes forgiveness seem so simple. Makes forgiveness seem so simple. Learning how to forgive truly. That was Phil, who'd been studying a Course in Miracles, which is all about forgiveness. And essentially, the whole course is an instruction manual on forgiveness. And it taught me how to learn how to forgive. Learned how to forgive truly. Hazel, who joined us earlier tonight, to doing exercise 9, inspired decision making. So we did a little group exercise in one of the discussion sessions. So one of the exercises in the course manual you'll get about inspired decision making. She said, I experienced a feeling of expanding energy radiating from my heart center, which I've never experienced before. Energy felt like pure love, which was exhilarating to the point of me being wide awake all night. What a stunning experience, which will stay with me for the rest of my life. So things like that can happen. I can't guarantee it, but when you do these kinds of practices and processes, then you open yourself up for some pretty miraculous, transformational, stunning experiences, as she says, to potentially happen. And this is Lebo, who's did the course and still part of the community. It's like learning to sort out issues with another mind. Also, it gives you peace within, no lingering guilt or resentment. So that's what it's about, letting go of all of that. As she says, another mind, right? Because you've got 2 parts in your mind. There's an ego mind and there's a spiritual mind. And they think and perceive completely differently, opposite. So the second result is finding flow in your daily activities. So you'll know how to remain poised, enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately. So a couple of testimonials about that. This is Lauren. Lauren's from the US. She did the first course. She just describes a situation where she had a trip to do, and she just practiced with her breath. So I practiced with my breath. And she initially felt stressed because I didn't feel like enough time to get it all done. I used the deep diaphragmatic breaths throughout the morning and afternoon. No mantras, no thoughts, just deep breaths. And I'd said in one of my emails, controlling the breath controls the mind, which is true. It does. I lived on that yesterday. My mind was at peace. I did all I wanted to do with zero mental fuss or chatter. Peace is real for me these days. Thank you. So that's a great example of flow in action. She just used her breath to help her to find a place where she wasn't mentally chattering, fussing, and she was able to do everything she needed to do and feel at peace. So Marie did the second course. These breath breaks, it does wonders. So I send out these little breath breaks from any meditation. Naresh, I think, have you been getting them? Do you get them every day?
Yes,
I've sent
I
a
have.
few too. Are you subscribed to one of the groups?
Yes, yes, yes.
So you get them every day, okay.
Yes, I do get them every day.
So this is a little example. It's just a mini meditation. I call it a breath break because it's shorter than a traditional meditation, 10 to 15 minutes. And as she said, I felt totally relaxed and connected. So it's about changing your state as you go. It's not about saying, oh, well, you know, one day when I have time, I'll do spiritual practice. It's integrating it into your life. And the result number 3 is what I call wonderful well-being, which is really start experiencing more happiness and flow in every aspect of your life. And living this extraordinary, ordinary life gives you and others miraculous experiences and results regularly. And if you're living that kind of life, then you're going to be well, physically, mentally, emotionally. You're going to be in a happy, expanded state. And sickness and disease and just can't really touch you, can't really happen if you're in that positive state of mind. Sickness and disease and death come when you go into a fearful, stressful state of mind. And again, the research has shown very clearly that these stress chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine and norepinephrine, a couple of others, have a very deleterious effect on our mental and psychological well-being. They shut down all kinds of systems. They shut down or repress the reproductive system, the digestive system, and guess what? The immune system. Because these are non-critical systems. In an emergency, they're not really required. So the body goes, right, shut all those down so you can mobilize as much energy as possible to fight or flee this life-threatening situation. And there isn't a life-threatening situation. So then we just suppress these systems, and if that keeps happening, we will get sick sooner or later. Stress is the real killer. So interesting with this virus, you know, the more you watch the news and the more you buy into the fear and etc., the more you suppress your immune system, and the more likely you are to contract something like a virus or some other infection. I think a lot of what's happening isn't. I don't believe there is a virus, to be frank. I think it's an immune system response. There's many things that can cause that response. One of which can be an overload, stress overload. Can kick your body into virus-like these COVID-19 symptoms when you feel, you know, overwhelmed and stressed, and so quite the opposite of well-being. No one in the media are not telling you to go, right, you know, do some breath work, do some meditation, switch off the news. There was a great song by a guy called Johannes Kerkorrel in the 1980s. Don't know if you remember it. It was sit it off, put it off. And he was talking about P.W. Boyton. He was going, oh, you know, when you see this horrible face, nare gesig, is Afrikaans, just sit it off, you know, put it off. And the same thing, you know, holds for, you know, what's happening now. Just sit it up, put it off. Don't watch it, because it's not doing any good to watch, you know, bad news. Even if it were true, which most of us are not, the statistics are being faked, and why watch it? You can't do anything about it. What it does, and this is the ingeniousness of the ego, is it actually, I call it mass medication via mass media. So when you watch these things, then it stimulates fear, and all these hormones, these stress hormones get produced. You're actually medicating people. You're giving them a dose of a powerful drug. It's produced by their own body, which suppresses their immune system, which makes them more fearful, which diminishes their life force energy, which makes them more compliant and more submissive. And that's what the media is doing. And you got to get wise to that. I haven't watched TV for 6 weeks now, 7 weeks. And it's been wonderful. Really, not that I ever really watched it before, but I was staying in a house where other people were watching it, my parents, and I couldn't kind of avoid it. It's like, you know, news. No, we haven't got enough of the 6 o'clock news. We now need to watch the 8 o'clock news, just in case there's an update on the stats. And, you know, we get an address by the president telling us how terrible the crisis is. It's like, really? Do you want to buy all that, or do you just want to be peaceful and happy? So the formula for true success is, how did that get there? Sorry about that. Happiness and peace, even under pressure. So there's another example. Yesterday's situation where a client put the phone down and my ear has been replaced by peace. I would have found peace whether he apologized or not. Very powerful stuff. This is Martin, who's a CEO of a small company. So peace under pressure, actually, working. This isn't just about sitting on a mountaintop and blissing out. It's about actually applying it in very practical, everyday situations. The fulfilling flow and a sense of higher purpose. So that was Vim's experience on very ordinary, extraordinary experience on the tennis court. He was at peace. He experienced pleasure in him that day, and he learned something powerful about himself, that he can learn to let go of anger, which really doesn't work. He saw that very clearly. Be at peace instead equals a more successful life. And there's Robin, just overall in her life, peace, less anxiety. She sleeps better, doesn't take painkillers anymore for stress, headaches, better relationships with her children, not as frightened or worried. And that is really the new success. Sorry, that's where that actually belonged. I need to just amend the animation on that. So Oprah, who's been pretty successful in her life, said, don't worry about being successful, work towards being significant. What she means is being someone who's connected to your true source, to who you really are. She's also on record as saying that her self-awareness is the greatest key to her success. So a sense of being well and connecting with who you really are leads to a life of true success, whatever you happen to achieve or not. You might just be a housewife, might be just running a small business. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to change the world on the level of form, but you're being successful in your own life. You're being the best version of yourself that you can be. And that's what it's all about. So just to summarize, firstly, you'll be authentically happy because you'll know how to let go of any negative thoughts or emotions, no matter how challenging the situation provoking them appears to be, and just choose to be happy instead. You'll do your daily activities in a state of flow, so you'll know how to remain poised and enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately. And number 3, you'll experience fulfillment, higher purpose, and a sense of well-being, which means that you're happy. You're happy and in flow in every aspect of your life. You live an extraordinary, ordinary life. It gives you and others miraculous experiences and results regularly. Now, what I will say is result number 3, all of these results really, are a work in progress. Doesn't mean after 6 weeks that you're going to have nailed this down perfectly, because it's a lifetime job. Attaining this kind of state, this mastery, is the work of the rest of your life. But what this will do is will give you the knowledge, and it will give you a path to follow that allows you to start practicing these, to start learning these as you go and experiencing them on a deeper level. So it's a be first. You be authentically happy, then you do your daily activities in flow, and then you experience. Now the ego reverses that. The ego says you need to have something first in order to do something, in order to be happy. So your happiness is right at the end of the line, not primary, not the start. You need to turn that all around. Be authentically happy, do out of that state of happiness, then you're in flow, and then you experience these rewards, fulfillment, higher purpose, a sense of well-being, and whatever you do tends to have a much higher energetic frequency, and so you'll tend to get better results on the level of form. So can you see why letting go is absolutely the critical skill? It starts with letting go, which leads to authentic happiness, which leads to fulfilling flow, which leads to fulfillment, higher purpose, and wonderful well-being. Right? If you can't let go of your negativity, then forget happiness. Happiness goes out the window. If there's no happiness, you can't find flow. You're just grinding it out, trying to get it, some kind of desperate attempt to get an outcome. And no matter what you achieve, you will not find true fulfillment as any kind of sense of higher purpose or any well-being. It'll just be a grind. And there's many people who've achieved worldly success, but they've done it at the cost of all of that. They've given up fulfillment, purpose, their health, and that's not sustainable. Very often their lives just kind of crash and burn after a time, because it's not a sustainable way. Okay, so who does this work for? Let me just pause quickly. Are you guys still with me?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Is Carol still there?
I'm here.
Great.
I'm here.
Fantastic. Okay. So who does this work for? So anyone over the age of 30, I'd say, roughly. If someone's 29 and wants to do the course, I won't say you can't do it. But generally, before the age of 30, what people are seeking for is something outside of themselves. So they're looking externally. We all go through that phase. You know, we taught someone you need to get a good qualification, go and get a good job, start working your way up the ladder, find a partner, get married. You know, it's all the external stuff we focused on. And then sometime after 30, for some people it only happens when they're 40 or 50. For me, I was quite fortunate it happened in my late 20s. Started to question all that and say, well, hang on, what's it really all about? But until you're at that point, if you're convinced that something outside of you is going to make you happy, then this course isn't going to work for you, because you're not going to accept the fundamental teaching. But you're both over 30, so there's no problem there. You wouldn't be here. To be honest, you wouldn't be listening to this if there wasn't a desire. There wasn't something in you saying, okay, I'm looking for something more authentic happiness. So not the inauthentic kind that fades and goes away with whatever it is that you've achieved. It's not about that or that you've bought. It's about finding flow in your daily life. It's about fulfillment, higher purpose, and well-being. And you need to be willing to open your mind to a very different way of thinking. But this isn't standard personal growth. You know, whatever I can think of, I can achieve, and that's going to make me feel better. It's not that at all. It's a very, very different way of thinking. Quite different from almost anything else. The only sort of parallel in spirituality is that Vita Vedanta, but that doesn't have as systematic a training program in training your mind and thinking differently and perceiving differently. And to really get the most out of it, you need to commit about 2 hours a day to doing the key spiritual practices over a period of 6 weeks. So a lot of courses, a lot of programs say, right, you know, I'm going to give you an hour or two a week. There's your teaching. They give you a video, maybe an audio, maybe they have some live discussion, but it's maybe once a week. Well, it's probably not really going to cut it. You know, it's as powerful as any ideas. You can learn stuff in that hour or two, but it's about really applying it in your experience, applying it in your daily life, going deep into it. And you can only do that if you immerse yourself in it. So if you really want to get the most out of it, you know, put 2 hours a day in. And if you need to, I'll share some strategies with how you can create that time. But you can cut down on non-essential things. If you lock down, you're still not working. Well, perfect. You know, you've got the time. Because are you still in lockdown, Naresh, or are you working?
No, I'm not working.
You're not. Okay. So
No. Yeah.
you got the time. 2 hours a day is not a problem if you're not working.
Yes. No.
To really
Time is
invest
not
in
a
yourself,
problem.
to go within and really deepen your experience. Say, you know what, I'm doing this for myself because it's going to give me everything I truly want: the happiness, the flow, fulfillment, higher purpose, well-being, and material results kind of follow from that. They start to become a bit irrelevant because you're like, well, I've got all of that. Money's just a kind of secondary. I'm not looking for anything external to make me happy anymore. That's really the shift that happens over this 6 weeks. And then when you can let go like that, often money, material results, things like that just flow. Starts to come a lot more easily because you're not desperate for it. Whereas if you think that you need it to be happy, the ego's got you, because it's gonna play games with you. It's gonna go, well, I'll give some to you and then I'll take it away, and then you're puppet of circumstances. Like you're just on this emotional roller coaster. So the 7 key spiritual practices, which I've mentioned briefly, but I'm just going to talk about them in the context of the course. So you get up every day, you do a 1 hour or a 40-minute or a half-hour recorded guided letting go meditation. I'll give that track to you. So get up an hour earlier if you need to do it. Do you meditate at the moment in the morning, Naresh?
Yeah, I do various practices at the moment.
You do. Okay. So you've already got a
Yeah.
practice. So just for 6 weeks, just immerse yourself and say, okay, I'm gonna use that time, my meditation time, to do this guided letting go meditation, which is a multi-dimensional meditation. It incorporates breath work, touching, toning, using your voice, binaural beats. There's background binaural beats and music, and breathing. So there's a lot in it, and you'll find that an hour goes very quickly when you do it.
Yes.
But I'll give you shorter versions as well. Just try the longer version to start with. And then there's 2 20 to 30 minute live guided meditations, happen at 12:30 and 5 p.m. UK time. So that's 1:30 and 6 p.m. South African time. And the second one is forgiveness or letting go. So I give you the 10-step letting go process. It is included in the guided letting go meditation. So I walk you through that process in the meditation. I give you 5 other shorter letting go techniques in the Art of Letting Go course manual. I give you some breath and mind training breaks, so you've experienced some of those. So anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes, sent via WhatsApp, which you can listen to twice a day, combined with practicing the mind training lesson for the day from the Course in Miracle workbook. So from week 2 onwards, we start working through the workbook, which is a daily lesson. And group discussion sessions. So we do a live discussion session every week on a Sunday evening, couple of hours. So you've got the opportunity to bring up anything that you're not sure about, ask questions about the material, share some of your experiences. Other people do the same thing. And then I give you 1 or 2 pre-recorded sessions of about 90 minutes. Sometimes they're a bit longer, sometimes a bit shorter. Every day, so Monday to Saturday, I send you an email with a link, and you can listen to those. So you can, in truth, you could probably spend 4 or 5 hours a day on this if you wanted to. I'm suggesting 2 hours as a minimum, but if you really want to immerse yourself in this, there's enough material to spend easily 4 or 5 hours a day listening. And you could listen while you're doing other things. You just put it on audio and be cooking or driving or anything like that. Then reading, so you read 1 lesson from the Course in Miracles workbook in the morning, 1 section of the Course in Miracles text every evening. That's the program. So that's going to be 2 to 4 pages a day, maximum. It's not a lot of reading, but it's not the easiest reading. So you need to spend some time concentrating on it and just giving it the attention it's due. And there's an end of day reflection. So I give you a little process. There's 4 powerful questions, and I give you a little guided meditation to work through that. And a power sleep meditation track. It sounds a bit like the ocean. It's got binaural beats, which basically entrain your brainwaves into a calmer state, into an alpha state. And when you're in an alpha state, you fall asleep much more easily. And that works for me. It works for a lot of people, and it'll help you sleep more deeply as well. So that's how the 7 spiritual secrets that I promised to share are incorporated into the structure of the course. Just in terms of how it works, you have a week 1, which is really an introduction. So you're doing that at the moment, Carol. It's exploring the theory behind the course, getting to grips with that, reading and discussing the first chapter of the text, working through exercise 1 to 3 in the course manual. And then in weeks 2 to 6, we work through 35 lessons of the Course in Miracles workbook. We read and discuss chapters 2 to 5 of the text. And there's some more exercises, 12 exercises we go through as the exercises. It's much more experiential in weeks 2 to 6. And there's a holotropic breathing session to conclude, which is a very specific kind of way of breathing that you do for about 45 minutes that It's pretty mind-blowing, pretty transformational, takes you into an altered state. The guy who invented it or discovered it was experimenting with LSD, on the effects of LSD on consciousness in the 60s, and then they banned it. So he started working on this holotropic breathing, and he finally got better results without any of the potential negative side effects of using psychedelic drugs. So it's pretty mind-blowing experience, literally, I say that. So the next course is going to start on Sunday the 7th of June and end on Sunday the 19th of July. So it's 43 days, 6 weeks in 1 day, Sunday to Sunday. Just want to get a group of people together so that there's a bit of a group energy and you can do some of the group practices and the discussions and stuff. So Naresh, if you want to sign up, then you'll start on Sundays. That's 3 weeks away. But in the meantime, you're welcome to join the sessions, join the community, live meditations and discussion sessions we do. So there's live meditations happening, as I mentioned, 1:30 and 6 p.m. every day. Some days it's 8 p.m. It's modified my presentation. Apologies for that. So on Thursdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, it's at 8 p.m. We just do a later session, but I'll let you know about those on WhatsApp, just to remind you.
Okay,
so you're welcome to join those sessions. They typically 15 to 20 minutes in the afternoon and maybe 20 minutes to half an hour in the evening. You just join in on Zoom, and it just creates a little bit of structure. I think people like it. People like Debbie, Hazel have been doing them regularly for months. I think they like it because it's like a set time. It's like, right, at that time, I know it's happening. I log in. It gives them a discipline, a structure to do it. Whereas left to your own devices, yes, you can get lots of downloads and apps and so on with meditations, but will you do them is the question. So the idea is to just create a little bit of that structure and discipline. And then there's live discussion sessions we held on Sunday evenings, 8 to 10 p.m. on African time, where we do a meditation and then we get into a topic. You have the chance to share. So if you've got anything coming up, any questions, very interactive, you can ask them. I'll respond. There's other people who've got a lot of wisdom who might, respond as well. And it's a sharing, and it works pretty well. So it's a nice connection as well, especially if you're in lockdown, you're not seeing people. It's kind of a social gathering as well. So that's the structure, the logistics, etc. Any questions on that?
It's fine so far.
Okay. Right, I'll crack on because I know it's getting quite late, but I'm nearly done. So I'm just going to talk about some of the tools. You'll get the following tools in the course information and exercise pack. So the 10-step letting go process outline, and there's a written worksheet as well, which allows you to work through the whole process in writing. There's instructions for 5 shorter letting go processes for quicker release that I give you. 2 documents to help you understand the theory of letting go. There's a worksheet for the Name Your Game exercise, worksheets for the blueprint for your higher self and purpose exercises. So really this becomes quite personal. This is in the second half of the course. You really get into, okay, so how do I apply this theory in my life? What is my game? What's my ego's game? And how can I turn that around? How can I flip my flop, as I call it, and establish a blueprint for my higher self? So what is my higher self? What's my essence identity? And then how do I actually live this? And from that will come your purpose, sense of higher purpose as well. So it becomes very personal. It's not just theory. It's like, how does this apply in your life? And you come out of this process with your essence identity, with a blueprint for your higher self. Basically, it's a set of values that you commit to live by, and what your purpose is. So how do I live all of that in this world and find a sense of higher purpose? So it's profound stuff, very, 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 very powerful, life-changing stuff. If you get all this, it will change your life. 5 extra transformational mind training exercises. There's 12 pathways to higher consciousness. There's a map of consciousness to help you navigate through the levels of your mind. A daily schedule planner to help you just structure your ideal day. Although during the course, I'm giving you that. I actually give you a structure and I say, all right, here's ideally what you should do in the day. I put it down in an email and you can refer back to that email throughout the day. I'm also sending you the breath breaks reminders about the meditations. So there's quite a lot of help and support to help you create a little bit of structure and stick to the program. And I'll give you some inspirational quotes and even some poetry. So that's, I would charge £20 for. It's a 50-page manual, but it's densely packed. There's a lot of information, basically a summary of everything I've learned over the last 20 years of doing this kind of work, and I put it into a 50-page manual. Then there's the Letting Go Meditation Power Pack. So that includes the guided Letting Go Theta meditation. Get the 1 hour as well as a 40-minute and a half-hour version. So this is some commentary on that, some feedback. It's a guy called Mike who did the first course. It's an English chap. So I think you run a fantastic course. The model of daily meditation is a really good one. Gets everyone really engaged, really helps to make you feel that you're completely immersed. So that idea of immersion learning that I talked about. I do think it is a fantastic process, sets you up brilliantly for the day. So the idea is that you do it up front, sets you up for the whole day. And the Power Sleep track is your evening meditation technique. And this is another lady who's done the course, still in the community. I think I had the best night's sleep I've had in a long time. Woke up refreshed and a willingness to start a new day. Thank you for the course. I'm finding it most helpful. So it will help you to get a better night's sleep and just sleep deeper, get a better sleep so you prepare better for the next day. So it's worth £20. Holotropic breathing. So I mentioned a little bit about this. There's some feedback. Awesome. I really enjoyed the session. Went. So it's going to take you back into your past. It can even take you into past lives, pre-birth. It's been used to take people back into the womb. It's a pretty amazing process. Saying thank you and asking for forgiveness. That was Robin. Joanne. Absolutely loved it. Mind-blowing experience, and I felt great for days afterwards. And it really is a mind-blowing experience. I'm not exaggerating. It will take you into a part of your mind you may never have visited. So that's at the end of the course. We do that, and then Phil had his breakthrough experience, just triggered by the holotropic breathing. I've already shared that. It was really the holotropic is the culmination of the whole process, but that might just be the process that does it for you. So that's 90 minutes. It's actually 45 minutes, but I give a little preparation, and there's a wind down and full meditation afterwards. So the whole thing's about 90 minutes. And you get 6 weeks access to the Facebook group. So there's a private Facebook group, which has got a lot of content on there. I've posted hundreds of hours of videos. There's audio material, links to the audio recordings as well in there. This is what Mbali, who did the first course, had to say. She also did the second course, how withdrawal symptoms. I didn't realize just how spoiled I'd become. I'm posting lessons and reminders every day. I'm already missing it. So yeah, the Facebook group is a great platform. You can go in there. There's plenty of back content. So Naresh, before you join the course, I'll give you access to the Facebook group.
Yeah.
If you're a member of Facebook and you want it. And you can go in there and you can start listening. There's loads of discussion sessions. I'm posting meditations there. One meditation every day is in there. So there's a lot of content that you can go and explore. Value that at £1 a day, £43. Then you're going to get 2 daily reminder emails to give you the lessons and the text from the Course in Miracles to read every day, as well as handy links to resources. So I put the links in there. So like if I refer to something, you can go and you can link to it. You can read an article. You can go and link to a particular part of the manual, because I've split it up. So just try to make it as useful as possible. And Vim, let's say thanks for all the emails. Appreciate it hugely. So the email gives you the structure of the course and your daily schedule. So £1 a day for those, £43. 2 WhatsApp audio recordings to guide you through 5 to sometimes say 15 minutes, so anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes, morning and afternoon, and also practice the daily lesson. So it's what a lady called Nadia said. She hasn't done the course, but I love these reminders that really help me, and often busy scurrying around, lost in thoughts. These reminders are extremely helpful for me to take a pause and return to the here and now and stop freaking out. I said before, the one technique actually stopped a panic attack. That's been amazing. So I sent one to her. She said she was having a panic attack at the time. And she was like, okay, just do it. And the truth is, if you're breathing deeply, you just do some deep diaphragmatic breathing, it's absolutely impossible to have a panic attack. You can't. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which counters the fight or flight response, and you immediately start to relax. And when you relax, you can't be panicked. Really has helped me center and ground myself, remember who I am, and choose true perception. She's a Course in Miracles student. Okay, so 2 day reminder emails, 2 breath break recordings via WhatsApp, £86 value that. There's about 70 hours of recorded discussion sessions, video and audio, about 14 hours of live discussion sessions, about 30 hours of live meditation sessions that you'll get in the 6 weeks. So somewhere around 114 hours of recorded or live discussion and meditations. What's happening? Oh, right. My mouse has just expired. Okay. Yeah, I post those all in the Facebook group, so you can catch those. If you missed the live recording, you can catch the discussion sessions and some of the meditations in the Facebook group. And this is what Mike had to say overall about the course. And the course structure is great. It's like doing the 2 calls a day. So we were doing 2 live calls a day. That's it. In that course, talked about my teaching. It's very flattering, so I won't go into too much of that. So I just try and facilitate, really. I think your process is amazing, yielded great results for me. The in-call meditations are really amazing. On your meditation practice interwound with the course content really works well. So that's what I try and do. It's you got a little taste of it earlier. Try and weave the course content, the lesson for the day, into the meditation. The guided meditations in the lesson often show me things I would not have picked up before. Give the space to view it differently. Most of all, I've really enjoyed being connected with people all over the world and hearing different perspectives from everyone. So there's a great sense of community. Powerful dynamic in doing the course material together as a group and sharing energy. So there's that aspect, and then also I'm facilitating, so I'm just helping you to get a bit of that positive energy. He says, I really believe in the course. I do, absolutely. I don't think there's another way than letting go. All of my spiritual exploration, I haven't found anything that works other than letting go. And all these techniques are just designed to help you to do that. So about 114 hours of recorded or live discussion meditation sessions. And you get some bonus tools. It's about 70 hours of video and audio recordings. So that's from the first trial course. And we're also doing regular sessions since November. So all of that's available in the Facebook group. And Robin, as she said, still listens to this. A year and a half after it, she listens to them on her way to work. And all the negative, stressful thoughts that used to preoccupy her mind and that commute are now not there. Listening and applying the ideas. So yeah, there's an example of a session that's still posted in the Facebook group. If you want to go and listen to that, you can. Plus, you get some free bonuses. So about 70 hours of video and audio recordings, discussion sessions. So it's £700 value. 30 hours of recorded meditation sessions, including an 8-phase abundance one, breath watching, relaxation and light meditations, often incorporating the day's workbook lesson. And they're just some of the benefits. I talked earlier about the benefits, but brings harmony to your life, helps you organize your time, helps you to lose weight, improves your responsiveness, helps you to sleep well, makes you stress-free, makes you happier, improves your metabolism, improves memory, increases immunity, increases your ability to focus. It's got some pretty amazing benefits. So it's extraordinary that people don't do it more. And then 30 hours of audio recordings of the guided meditations. Additionally, I'll give you an extra 3 months access to the Ask Learn and Go Facebook group. So before the course starts, get access to it. Afterwards, you get a couple of months access in case you want to review anything. So that's £1 a day. And there's a lot of extra content. I've posted things by people like Eckhart Tolle and Joe Dispenza and other people in the community. So there's some good value in there. So you add all that up, total value of the tools is 2467. So your normal investment, I just discount that by 90%, so £247. And I'm going to give you a free trial discount as well. So that's £100 free trial the first week of the course. And a special lockdown discount, because I know often a lot of people are struggling financially, and a £10 early bird discount. So it's £87, and it's valid until the end of the May, and that's 96%, over 96% discount to value. However, okay, so I'm going to talk about some of the roadblocks that might stop you doing this. Quite pertinent now, because that's what we're experiencing, aren't we? Like, roadblocks, cops, it's not good really. But we experience roadblocks in our own life. Just try and get beyond this roadblock slide. Slide seems to be blocking me for some reason. Can we get beyond the roadblock? It's quite funny that it's...
Quite ironic.
It is, yeah. There we go. Finally, we bounced him out the way. Okay. So, first of all, you might say, I don't have the time. Well, to make the time, you can watch an hour's less TV. If you watch any TV in the evening, sit it off, put it off. Go to bed an hour earlier so you can get up an hour earlier to meditate in the morning. So trading an hour of something that, watching something that tells you your vision for something that gives you true vision, gives you this inner vision. It's a very good trade-off. You can integrate these other key spiritual practices into your daily routine to make you more effective and productive. So you can take breath breaks when you need a break. It's a good idea every hour or so to take a break. So take a breath break. Use the recording. You can also listen to the discussion sessions that I'm going to send you. I'm sending you recordings while you're doing other activities such as driving, eating, cooking, walking. Carol, you mentioned you were walking the other day in the Botanic Gardens and you were listening. Yeah. So you can really make it work for you. You know, find a way to integrate it in to these things, so that you're using otherwise dead time. Often when your mind's just busy, you're actually using it to reprogram yourself, using the time productively. Another roadblock might be, I'm not ready for this yet. So if you're over 30, that's just an excuse to avoid taking responsibility for your own happiness, flow, fulfillment, purpose, and success, and well-being. No one else is responsible for these. Only you can do it for yourself. And your life isn't going to last forever. 20 years go by very quickly. Someone I know, quite close to me and in my family, and for 25 years, I think she's been wanting to write a book. 25 years. And it just didn't happen. She got distracted. She was busy at work. And finally now, she's actually doing it. She submitted her first 3 chapters a couple of days ago, so I'm very pleased for her. And it's happening finally. But 25 years, that's 2.5 decades went by. It took her to do that. Imagine if she'd done it 25 years ago. So it goes very, very quickly. And it's about seizing the day and actually making the most of every day. And I'll give you all the tools and support you need to do this. So you're not alone. If you undertake a program like this on your own, most people, and I'm not saying that's you, but most people will not succeed, because they just won't have the discipline and be able to put in place the structures, and also they don't necessarily have the information. If you don't know what you don't know, then you can't teach it to yourself. You need a teacher or a facilitator, and you need a process to structure it. The final roadblock might be, I can't afford this. So first of all, I'll say it's your happiness, it's your flow, your success, your well-being, your fulfillment, your purpose in your life. If you don't invest in yourself, in your life, you're really saying that you're not worth it, which is actually the whole problem, is that we don't think we're worthy. That's the entire problem of every human being, is an identity problem, an identity crisis. We don't think we're worthy, and the course is designed to help you correct that, to help you to realize that you are worthy. But it starts with you. You've got to make some effort to start with. So don't devalue yourself in this way. Truth is that action is the most powerful form of affirmation. So if you actually act on something, what are you saying? You're saying, I believe it. I'm acting on it, therefore I must believe it. Even if I don't quite believe it in my mind, if I keep acting on it, then I'm affirming that I believe it. And sooner or later, I do believe it. And that's how you create results. That's how you create success. You keep acting in a certain way that reaffirms your belief. And sooner or later, you do believe it. You go, well, actually, I am that, because I've acted it out so many times that it's become my reality. So what I will say is, if you pay for the course, you're telling yourself that you're worthy of all of it. And actually, that's an essential part of the transformation process, because you putting your money where your mouth is. You've got some skin in the game, saying, okay, I'm worth this. I'm going to give this my all. You've got something at stake. It also ensures you value and you pay attention to what you're learning. So that's a very good reason, not for me, but for you to actually pay for this, because it will make you get more out of the course. However, if you genuinely can't afford it, so I know that there are people who just don't have the free money. If you don't have the money, it's a bit difficult to find it. So I've got a couple of solutions to that. First of all, you can do a 3-week free trial. So you don't have to pay anything. You can start the course. You can do 3 weeks and give it a go. You can see if it works for you. And if you'd like to continue after 3 weeks and you want to do it, yes, some money is required, but I'm quite happy to make payment plans and arrangements, because I'd rather you did this than you didn't do it. You know, my motivation in this is it's not to make money for myself. It's to share this information, this inspiration, and really help people, to try and help people to transform their lives. Or if you do pay for it, you get a money back guarantee after 3 weeks. So if in the first 3 weeks, for whatever reason, you're not happy, say, okay, I'm not happy, I'd like to get my money back, no problem. I will ask you why. I'd like to get your feedback, because that's valuable for me. But there's a money back guarantee. So whichever way you want to do it, you do it free, you don't pay anything, or you pay up front and you get the 3-week free trial with a money back guarantee. And some people have done this. Mike, you saw some of his testimonials. He actually got a lot of value out of it, but in I think 2.5 weeks into it, he decided it wasn't for him. The teaching conflicted with an existing belief he had. He was following some Western mysticism's path or something, and he couldn't quite accept the non-dual teaching, and so he bailed out of it. But he got a lot of value out of it. And in that case, it was free. I didn't charge for that course at all, but he would have got a full refund. So that's why I've made it a 3-week free trial, because I think it gives you 3 weeks is enough to know whether this is going to be something for you or not. And if you're not happy, I don't want to take your money. So as I said, if you don't want to pay anything up front, you can do the first 3 weeks free, and you get the Letting Go meditation pack, which is valued at £20. You get the Art of Letting Go course manual. You get 6 weeks access to the Art of Letting Go Facebook group. That's worth over £100 itself on its own, irrespective of the 3 weeks of the other content. You get all of that free. and you get to keep it. I'm not going to say, well, you can't really give it back. Once you've got it, you've got it. So that's my offer to you. You can do this free. This probably is not going to be an option for you, Naresh, but you could pay a £300 accountability deposit, do the entire course free. So you pay the £300 and you do the entire course free. You can get your deposit back if you do 5 live discussion sessions, you do 20 live meditation sessions, complete all 11 exercises in the course manual, complete an online questionnaire after the course finishes, and you give me a 10-minute video recorded testimony. So that might be for someone. It's one way to make sure that you really do the course thoroughly. That's the idea behind it. You want to make sure you do the course thoroughly, pay the £300, and you're like, okay, I've got £300 at stake here. I need to stick to this program. So my question then is, can you afford not to do this? And I'll bring Marianne Williamson's quote in again. She said, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking, so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. We're born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. A great quote, and that's what it's really about. It's about finding your own truth, liberating yourself from your own fear. When you can do that, then you become a light unto the world. You can truly make an impact on other people. That doesn't necessarily mean you go out and become a Marianne Williamson or a Nelson Mandela, but it means that in your own life, you become a light unto others. And that's all we're here to do, is to shine your light into your world, your little circle of influence, and to help them to see the light. And maybe, who knows, maybe you get called to do something extraordinary. I don't know. That's everyone's journey. But this course will create the platform for that, give you a foundation for a very different kind of a life where you start to actually live this truth of what the quote says, rather than it just being nice ideas. You actually start to live it and make it your reality. Okay, so you want to get started now. That's a summary of the costing. If you'd like to pay, it's 1,970 Rand. Said money back guarantee in the first 3 weeks. There's a couple discount, so if you want to do it with someone else, you can get a slight discount for that. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of extra value. I've piled on the value. I'm trying to make it as affordable as possible. So if you'd like to pay up front, go to jointheaolg.club. Just do that tomorrow. I've got a few things to do. I didn't have internet today, so I just need to do a few edits on it, but I will send you a link to that. Or just drop me an email if you'd like to do this. So this quote says, from Lao Tzu, another spiritual master, journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You can either go to jointheaolg.club, book your place online. There's a form to fill in, and there's a registration form after that. If you'd like to pay, accept major debit and credit cards, or you can do a transfer into a UK or SA bank account. If you'd like to do it, just drop me an email. Let me know you'd like to do the free trial of the course. And if you want to include some one-on-one coaching, there's also an option that's paid. Just mention that, and yeah, I'll sign you up. As I said, the course starts on the 7th of June. In the meantime, Naresh, if you want to join the Facebook group, you're most welcome. I'll send you a link where you can request access to that, so you can get all the access to what's in there, and you can start joining the meditations and discussion sessions in the meantime.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Jono.
Yeah, my pleasure. So so you're gonna do it.
Yes, I'll do the 3-week free trial,
Great.
and then we'll take it up from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the idea. You know, you make
Will that be
you
fine?
make a commitment, do the 3 weeks, immerse yourself in it, and see what happens.
Yes.
If you want to continue, then we'll talk about it after 3 weeks. But otherwise, you've got
Fantastic.
3 weeks free. You got something really valuable at no cost.
So,
So
for sure.
that's my gift to you, and I hope you make the most of it. Take the red pill as you watch The Matrix.
Thanks. Yes.
Yeah, take the
Many
red pill
times.
rather than the blue pill.
I loved it. It's one of my, yeah.
Okay, so just
Thanks
listen
a lot.
to this song to close it out. It's a lovely song just to finish the whole experience.
Thank you.
Feeling of this moment. That's when you and I become. That's when you and I become. You and me, you and me, that's one. No more lies. This feeling is true. Look into my eyes. All you'll see is you. That's when you and I become. You and me, that's one. That's when you and I become. You and me, you and me, that's one. Come with me, run with me, hide with me, dance with me. Till the end of love. Till the end of
Okay, still there?
Thanks for Jonah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So any questions?
not really.
I'm good. I'm good,
Okay.
thanks.
All good. All right. So I'll send you an email tomorrow with
Fantastic.
some tools and links and stuff. You can download them. You can
Excellent.
start meditating using the guided letting go meditation, and
Sure.
start joining in on the meditations. I'll sign you up to the Ask Letting Go WhatsApp group, so you get two meditations a day. Which group are you part of? Because I'll just remove yourself from that one, because otherwise it'll be duplicated.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Too sure. Okay. Well, if you start getting them twice,
I know I'm a part of. No. Sorry. I'm not part of the group. You send it to me personally.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you a few. You're not part of
Yes,
it. Okay.
yes.
So signing up to the Hololingo
Yeah.
Club, and you'll get two of those a day. So you can do those as recordings, or you can join the live sessions.
Okay.
Start doing the meditations every morning. You can join the discussion sessions, and the course itself will start on the 7th. I'm just going to try and get a few more people, so you get a nice group together, and
Fantastic.
then you do the 3 weeks. But
Excellent.
yeah, so welcome. Thank you for listening. That was quite, what is the time? It's
Thanks, Reed.
quite late. Thank you for staying for this time. And yeah, welcome to the journey. Look forward to it.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Jono.
Okay, my
Yes.
pleasure.
Thanks.